Again, we have three windows. We have three stories. But we have three different postures in wilderness. Dan the judge, given the candelabrum, called to light the darkness, who chose the serpent's path and watched the light go out, the cautionary window. The dark blue that asks every believer, what have you done with the light that you've been given? Gad the warrior, pressing back against every raid, a crouching lion, faithfully fighting on the frontier that he chose, executing the justice of the Lord in exposed territory. The warrior window. The weapons that invite every believer into the fight that they are called to rather than the safety that they prefer. Asher the abundant. Dipping his foot in oil, yielding royal delicacies, producing the fuel that kept the sacred light burning, receiving the promise that as the days are, so shall the strength be. The window of provision. The gray-green of the olive tree that asks every believer, are you receiving the daily sufficiency of the God who gives exactly what the day requires? The west wall is the wall of wilderness. It's the wall of afternoon light. The wall of the tribes who lived on the edges and fought in the exposed places and produced the abundance that the sinner needed to keep burning. And it faces the direction of the light that is moving. Not towards the sunrise, towards the settled place the sun is heading as the day progresses. The west wall is the wall of faithfulness through the middle of the day. Through the long hours when the morning excitement is past and the evening resolution has not yet arrived. And the question is simply, will you keep burning through the afternoon? Dan's candelabrum went dark in the afternoon. Gad's weapons kept swinging. Asher's oil kept flowing. And then we get to the Christ who fulfills the west wall. Jesus stood in the temple, in the treasury, near the menorah and said, I am the light of the world, and whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. John 8:12. The setting matters here. He said it near the great menorahs of the temple, the instruments of light that Asher's olive oil kept burning. He positioned himself as the fulfillment of everything the candelabrum pointed towards. Not the instrument of light, but light itself. Not the lamp that needed oil, the source from which all oil ultimately comes. Dan was given the candelabrum and put it down. Christ picked it up. The judge that Dan was called to be, discerning, just, seeing clearly, Christ is. Not the serpent that bites from ambush, the judge who judges with perfect righteousness and whose judgments are always and only true. I wait for your salvation, O Lord. Remember Jacob cried that in the middle of Dan's blessing? The salvation that Dan's tribe could not produce with its candelabrum or its serpent's cunning arrived in the one that Dan's tribe was supposed to point toward. The light that Dan extinguished, Christ rekindled. And he promised that this light would not go out, and darkness cannot overcome it. Paul's description of the armor of God in Ephesians 6 is Gad's window applied to every believer. The full armor, the shield, the sword, the breastplate, and stand. Having done all, stand. The warrior spirituality of Gad. The tribe that chose the frontier and fought faithfully for its brothers is the posture that Christ calls His people to in a territory the powers think that they still control. You see, we're not called to safety. We're called to be on the frontier. We're called to the exposed territory, to the place where raiders raid. And the calling is to raid at their heels. Sorry. Christ the warrior. Not with the weapons of the world, but with the weapons of righteousness on the right hand and on the left. He fulfills Gad's window. And what Gad's window was pointing toward. The one who crouches like a lion rises like a lion. The Lion of Judah, who is also the Lamb. The ultimate warrior who fights not with spear and shield, but with truth and love, and a word that does not return empty. And then we get to Asher's oil, the daily sufficiency. And as your days, so your strength finds its fulfillment in the one who said that I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall never thirst. John 6:35. These aren't royal delicacies from a fertile territory in the northern coast of Canaan. The bread of life, the living water, the provision that does not need to be stored up or anxiously accumulated because it arrives fresh for the day and what the day requires. As your days, so your strength. That's the manna principle. That's the Asher principle. And the daily bread that Jesus taught His disciples to pray for, give us this day our daily bread, is the oil of Asher flowing from the source who is the bread of life. The prophetess Anna from the tribe of Asher recognized a child in the temple and proclaimed his redemption to everyone waiting. The tribe whose oil kept the temple menorah burning produced the woman who first anointed the Messiah's public presence with her proclamation. The oil of Asher reached the Messiah's presentation just as the oil of Asher reached the lamp of the sanctuary. The oil always reaches the lamp when the lamp belongs to the one who is the light. 3 windows, 1 light. Dan's candelabrum finds its fulfillment in the one who is the light of the world that darkness cannot overcome. Gad's weapons find their fulfillment in the one who arms his people for the frontier fight with the full armor of God, full of grace and truth and love and mercy. Asher's oil finds its fulfillment in the one who is the bread of life, the daily sufficiency whose strength matches every day that requires it. So which window are you? Chagall placed these 3 windows on the west wall deliberately. The afternoon light that comes through the west wall, the long middle of the day, the hours between the morning's fresh start and the evening's resolution, the hours when the excitement of the beginning is worn off and the fatigue of the long fight is set in, and the question is simply whether you will keep burning. Dan's question is the question of the afternoon. Will you keep the light? Will you tend the candelabrum? Will you resist the serpent's path that offers the appearance of justice without the cost of faithfulness? Or will you put the light down and light something else? Something easier. Something cheaper. Something that looks like light but does not require the oil of daily connection to the source. Gad's question is the question of the frontier. Have you chosen the exposed territory? The hard assignment? The place nobody else wanted that you felt called to? And having chosen it, are you honoring that commitment? Are you fighting for your brothers and your sisters even when the fight costs you something? Are you raiding at the heels of what raids you? Pressing back against what presses you? Crouching like a lion, moving when the moment comes? Asher's question is the question of provision. Are you receiving the daily sufficiency? Are you trusting the as your day so, your strength promise? Or are you anxiously accumulating and storing and calculating whether the oil will last? When the one who sends the oil has promised that the oil matches the day. 3 questions, 3 windows, 3 postures in the wilderness of the long afternoon. But the light of the world is still shining. The armor of God is still available. And the bread of life is still sufficient for every day. The west wall faces the direction the light is moving. And the thing that Chagall asked, I think, and the thing that I'm going to ask you is to just keep burning.